What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone in between? Welcome to another new video. I am still covered in bug bites. My shoulders look awful, but in the name of body positivity, I have decided I am not going to be wearing a bunch of sleeves to cover it up. And also, too, I really like this shirt. It says "We Out," and I want to wear it. So, yeah. So, for the next part of our little Pride series, I thought, let's talk about poppers again. On my previous channel that never existed, I made about 3 videos where I talked about poppers, revising things as I went along, talking about new aspects of it, and discussing like how the market and the atmosphere around poppers has evolved and changed. I was going to just re-upload those videos, but given that I got a few little facts wrong through them that I didn't revise properly throughout, and that it kind of got messy because it was more connected to my issues with buying poppers than a full-on, like, serious discussion of the science and history behind them. I kind of just wanted to redo one, and I figured, hey, channel is, like, starting from scratch all over again, so what better time than now? So, chances are you have seen them in some of the more niche areas of porn, or in the OnlyFans, of course, but these are poppas. Poppers are nitrites. Literally just that. Okay, it's more than that. But that's kind of, for the most part, that is it. Nitrites. Technically, poppers are alcohol-bonded nitrites. The god of all poppers would have been amyl nitrite, which is actually very hard to find. Whereas nowadays, the most popular ones seem to be things like isobutyl nitrates or isobutyl nitrites, or isobutyl and isobutyl. You can also find propyl, isopropyl, and alkyl, other kinds like that. Basically, as long as it is an alcohol bonded to nitrite molecules. So, how does this work? Nitrites enter into the blood, and basically, I don't know the entire in-depth understanding of this thing, but what happens is you inhale them, they go into your lungs, they go into the bloodstream thus, and they basically cause dilation of smooth muscle, which includes the muscle in all your blood vessels, the muscles in anything that is uncontrolled in your body that you don't like actively control, like your legs, your arms, your chest. That's all fibrous muscle. Smooth muscle would be like your sphincters. That's sphincter. These sphincters. Oh yeah, those are sphincters. Basically, yeah, smooth muscle gets relaxed with poppers, and especially with that sphincter, it makes certain things a lot easier because you don't have to worry about tension or anything. It is a fully automated process. There's also a bit of a head rush because, again, if your blood vessels are dilated, the blood is moving a lot faster, oxygen is coming through, sort of, and it can produce a little bit of a heady feeling, which does feel good at times. I mean, you still need to stretch and prep and clean and all that, but they can help, especially if you're like me and have a lot of tension and an inability to like really focus or relax. The next topic for discussion: what are the negatives of poppers? Now, of course, I can't talk about this without going into the history of poppers. Basically, what happened is that around the 80s, 90s era, during the AIDS crisis, there was some, I think it was a study, or it could have just been like a government report, I can't remember, but it linked the use of poppers to risky sexual behavior, and thus said that basically poppers were responsible for AIDS. And the result of this is that poppers weren't banned outright for sale, but there were a lot of regulations that say you cannot sell this as an inhalant, you cannot sell this as a drug, etc. So what a lot of companies did, and you will notice that on a lot of these, it'll end up saying something like a solvent cleaner, or a leather cleaner, or a VHS head cleaner. Basically, poppers are always going to be sold as a thing. Room odorizer is what I remember. And this did sort of muddy the waters and murky them, because if you're selling leather cleaner, if you're selling VHS cleaner, you can't call those poppers very easily without sort of getting in trouble, because even if you don't say, go ahead and inhale these, if you put all the right disclaimers and everything, you're still relating your totally not ingestible in any sense whatsoever by humans product to something that is, by its very definition, inhalable, involved for human consumption. But what actual health issues are there with poppers? So, as a vasodilator, poppers can lower your blood pressure, which can be fine if you have hyper blood pressure, but if you already have low blood pressure, that poses an extra risk. If you're on Viagra, which honestly, I always learned that Viagra worked opposite of poppers, and that's why you couldn't mix them together, because it was a contradictory effect. The more I read about it, the more I ended up realizing it's more complicated than that. So what actually happens is Viagra itself is a vasodilator as well. It will cause the smooth muscle to relax and expand. But here's the funny thing. Poppers, if you just use them, will reduce your erection hardness, whereas obviously Viagra does the opposite. This doesn't have to do with the dilation. That is like a side effect thing. Well, actually, it's a side effect for how we use Viagra today, but in the original testing, when it was being created for heart problems, the penis thing was the side effect. Anyway, poppers will just control smooth muscle. That's it. The Viagra, or sildenafil, it basically acts by blocking out a specific enzyme that only works in blood flow in the penis to regulate it. And what happens is the sildenafil blocks out this enzyme, so this enzyme can't say, stop letting all this blood flow in here, stop making this thing erect. So even though you have increased blood flow and vasodilation, which should make your erection softer, the fact that this enzyme doesn't work properly due to the introduction of Viagra means that your erection stays hard. Okay, so other things with poppers and health issues. So aside from the fact that it lowers blood pressure too, something else that nitrites do and poppers do is that they end up bonding to iron in our red blood cells and taking that iron with them. So you end up with an iron deficiency. And this is especially important because the iron in our red blood cells is what oxygen molecules bond to. It's how the red blood cells manage to transport oxygen throughout our body. So this isn't going to turn into an utter disaster, risky, super unsafe habit unless you are huffing poppers for hours on end, like during a fisting thing or a really heavy group session type thing. For the most part, normal popper usage isn't going to aggravate your iron deficiency to an extreme. That being said, if you are going to be using poppers and you aren't sure about how much control you'll be implementing during using them, go ahead and take some iron supplements ahead of time. Go ahead and implement more iron into your diet. Basically, it is one of those things where it can be an issue, but you can also mitigate it and prevent it if you simply adjust your life around the fact that you are using poppers, and this is what poppers will do to your body. It doesn't necessarily have to be a completely 100% poppers are going to kill you and ruin you and destroy you type thing. I'm sure the basics have been known by people. You do not drink it. Okay, there are multiple reasons why you don't drink it. First of all, with the alcohol content, it is very corrosive. Like, you literally can use these as actual cleaning products. They are incredibly solvent and work really well. And of course, because it's alcohol, it evaporates a lot faster than water, which is why most things for computers or chip cleaning are alcohol-based. So, if something ever gets on a phone or a computer such and you need to clean it off real quick, this actually could work. Although it can also strip dyes and color out of things, so be careful with plastics or things like that too. You take your papas, open them, and now I know some people don't do this, but I do it all the time because I have had enough chemical burns to be scared of this. Again, this alcohol can be very corrosive. So if it's an old bottle that you've opened before, if it's been shaken around a lot, the first thing I usually do is grab my palm and rub it across the rim. If there's any droplets or anything there that's going to be touching the more sensitive skin on my face, at least I know that I have wiped away most of it. You will lift it to your nose and then inhale. I would say don't exhale into the bottle. You probably won't cause too much damage, although you might put a bubble in there. They'll cause the liquid to come up and, again, hit sensitive skin. But also, too, poppers do corrupt over time. Alcohol breaks down, the nitrites will break down, and it will recombinate into other things that have a much worse smell, less effect, and eventually are actually repellent. Like, I can't even explain it any other way. I've had poppers sit around and I forget about them. I think that they're still good. I try to go and smell it, thinking it'll just be a normal popper hit. It's actually repellent, like ammonia level repellent. I haven't been able to find anything about the actual chemical breakdown of how poppers degrade, so I can't say with any certainty what it is I was inhaling at that point, but like my reaction was as soon as it hit my nose. Where to get poppers? There are a number of sites out there. Again, there still seems to be a very large European market. These websites have been, in my experience, mostly reliable, but it takes a really long time for them to ship here. They can come broken, and it just ends up being really shady and unusual at times. US-based websites are increasing, finally. When I first started making videos about poppers, it was very hard to find anything US-based, and they were getting shut down left, right, and center, and I found out there was actually sort of a weird, like, inside politics behind this, where, like, bigger poppers companies and even storefronts were, like, actively finding and reporting popper websites to, like, get them taken out, especially ones that were making their own blends, because, again, it's alcohol and nitrites. Like, I'm not exactly a chemistry major, but everything I have read has said that if you can understand the formula and the basic breakdowns and stuff, it is actually a lot easier and cheaper to make poppers on your own. You do need a lot of special equipment, of course, and sterilizing and making sure that everything comes out just right, of course, but it isn't the ultra complicated, needs a fully equipped pharmacy in order to make it happen type thing, basically. Treasure Island Media, the porn company, actually sells poppers on their store, and thus far I have been using them almost exclusively to get them because I find it's the easiest to use and I have less problems with them. They aren't getting payments restricted. Like, one website basically could only go by check at one point because they had been banned by every single moneylender from PayPal to Square, etc. So they could only accept, like, cash orders, checks type things. Because, let's be honest, if any porn company is a proponent of heavy popper usage, it's Treasure Island Media. So yeah, I kind of hope this video, like, explained a few of the basics of poppers. Please let me know if there's questions. I tried to answer everything as best as I could. I just know in my head I'm going to forget something. I have notes on the screen over there, and I'm still sure I forgot something. In terms of brands, like, honestly, outside of the fact that some of them have a different alcohol base, I don't really know what it is that can actually cause any difference. Like, is it totally psychosomatic and Jungle Juice is 100% the same as Double Scorpio no matter what anyone says, and you're just reacting to the bottle or the labeling or the fact that it says extra extra super on the label? I don't know. I don't want to talk about things that I don't know for certain, so the only thing I will say is that if you do have a problem with the smell of poppers, there are some brands out there that do have, like, mentholated poppers, where they add a little bit of a menthol element to it so it smells minty, and I like those, but the funny thing is I noticed because of that added mentholation, they are a lot weaker and don't really, like, hit as strong as, like, something like Overdrive or Mutiny, which really, really, like, slaps you in the dick in a good way. But yeah, this was my video talking about some of the basics to understand poppers. I hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, leave any extra comments or questions in down there so that I know what to expand upon in the next video I make about poppers eventually. And I will see you guys in the next one. And of course, remember, life always gets better as long as you're working it brick by brick.
without you.